So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Jane. And Jane, if you just want to say next slide, then I can help you along here.
Do I just say that anytime or when I want the next slide?
No, anytime be good. We can just have, it's almost Christmas and no,
Well,
it'll help with the test at the end of the session if we flow that way.
okay. Well, welcome everybody. Jennifer and Brian and Ian and Keith have asked me to cover just a couple of slides on the transition. Last year, it was a request from the membership that call room and starter's assistant be two separate disciplines. So not considered this, and it is now two separate disciplines. So from, well, not this day forward, but a few days previous to this forward, kind of think of it as horizontal jumps, vertical jumps. So it's not two disciplines in one anymore. It's two separate disciplines. You're a starter, you're a starter's assistant, your call room, your starter's assistant. So they're different disciplines. So whatever level of starter's assistant, it used to be called, that you were at in January of 2021, you will now become that level in both starter's assistant and call room, because at that point in time, you would receive credits and mentorships in both. So the example they've given here is, if Keith Newell was a level 5 starter's assistant on January of 2021, he is now a level 5 call room judge, as well as a level 5 starter's assistant. So once again, whatever you were, you kind of get two for the price of one as of January of 2021. Now there's two separate disciplines. So the next slide is going to tell you the transition from this day forward, like how does this happen? So this chart that you see in front of you, on the left side, it's the old system. In the middle, what do you need to do? And under the new system, what will you achieve? So if you were a level in the old system, if you were a level 3, 4, or 5, you have to just kind of refer to what you need to become to the next level. But what if you're in the middle? So if you have started or finished credits at one level with without a clinic or an evaluation, from this day forward, you need to decide, okay, which discipline do you want to continue with then? So I have a few credits as a starter's assistant. I have a few credits in the call room, but I don't have a clinic or an evaluation. So number one, you need to decide what discipline you want to follow now. You need to complete the clinic in that discipline at the level that you're trying to achieve. You need to receive an evaluation in that discipline, and you need to complete the credits for that discipline. And then you will become either a 3, 4, or 5 call room or a 3, 4, or 5 starter's assistant, depending on how far through the system that you are. If you have, the next scenario is, let's say you finished your credits for a 3 going to a 4. Let's just say it's a 3 going to a 4. You have one evaluation, but you don't have a clinic. So in the middle, what do you need to do? You don't need to do any more credits because you've got them. You need to complete the clinic in the discipline that you decide that you want to achieve now. If the evaluation covers the discipline that you want to move forward in, then you just need to achieve one more evaluation. Because I said we're a 3 going to a 4, so you need 2 evaluations. If you, so you need to complete the clinic and you need 1 more evaluation. If the evaluation didn't cover the discipline that you wanted to achieve, then you need 2 more evaluations. If you are a 2 going to a 3, this scenario is kind of simple in that you don't need to achieve any more credits. You just need, you've got the evaluation, but you need to complete the clinic. And in the next slide, not yet, Brian, but in the next slide, Brian's made a really easy chart for level 3s. It gets a little more complicated when you're at 4 or 5 because you need 2 evaluations. So the next 2 bullets at the bottom here in the middle say, for level 4 or 5, you must get either a second evaluation or you must get 2 in the discipline that you want. Now, there is one proviso for 4s going to 5. We know that you're well through the process. And throughout this whole process, you've been achieving call room and starter's assistant at the same time. For officials that would like to achieve both of them and are well into the system, for the next 5-year period, we're allowing you to achieve 2 evaluations, but they have to cover both disciplines. And you would be recognized in both disciplines for the call room and for starter's assistant. Just because, as I say, you're well into the system, you're liking, let's say you're one of those officials that loves being in the call room and you like being on the track, then the National Officials Committee is given a little bit of a 5-year period where you can achieve your level 5 in both of those as you did in the past. So once again, later, Brian said we're going to answer questions if that's not clear. The next slide gives you a very simplistic view of how to go through the system if you're a 2 going to a 3. So the first scenario, you have a few credits, but you don't have any clinic or evaluation. So number 1, you have to decide, do you want to pursue call room or do you want to pursue starter's assistant? The next thing you have to do, complete the clinic in either call room or starter's assistant, whichever one you chose. The next thing you have to do is complete credits in either the call room or starter's assistant, depending on which one you chose. You need to receive 1 evaluation, once again, in the discipline that you chose, and then you're going to become a 3. And I'm pretty sure pursuing is spelt wrong, but that word is pursuing there under step 1. The next scenario has necessary credits. So it's a 2 going to a 3. You already have a bunch of credits, let's say both in the call room and starter's assistant. It doesn't matter. But you don't have a clinic and you have 1 evaluation. So which discipline do you want? You're pursuing the discipline corresponding to the evaluation. Well, great. You know what you have to do? Just do the clinic. And then you're going to become a level 3 in that discipline because you've got the evaluation already. You have the credits. So it's easy. But the next scenario is you have the necessary credits. You don't have the clinic and the evaluation happens to be in the discipline that you don't really want to pursue. So you have to do a clinic and you have to receive a evaluation in the discipline that you chose, whether it be call room or starter's assistant. So hopefully I didn't confuse you totally. And I think that's it for me. Brian, is the next one me? You know, that this is I'm not sure who's picking up after me, but
I'll take over here if that's okay, Jane, but thank you for that. And then we'll come back to Jane. If it holds your questions, if you have any, write them down and we'll come back to it. I'm just going to quickly go through the upgrading criteria for those who are not in the scenario that Jane was talking about. In other words, you haven't had an evaluation, you're not in that in between area. So if you're just a level 2, going to level 3, either in, well, you're just level 2, you're not decided yet. You need to pick your discipline, whether it's going to be the call room judge or the track starter's assistant. In order to get to level 3, I think it's the same, hasn't changed, 16 credits since upgrading to level 2 in either the call room or the track. 4 have to be provincial or above, and 8 of them has to be a chief or assistant chief. The open book exam is still there. You need to get a mark of at least 80%. 1 year of service at the level 2 before you can complete level 3. Attended the level 3 clinic, which is new under this enhanced pathway, which is quite exciting. So we'll be having that soon. And then 1 evaluation report done by an evaluator level 3 on the provincial list. That's your BOC will have the list of who can do level 3 evaluations in your province. And then send your request for upgrading to whoever looks after upgrading in your province. The branch chair is probably your best contact if you're not aware of that. That's from level 2 to level 3. For level 3 to level 4, again, pick your pathway. If you continue on from the last one, either a call room judge or a track starter's assistant. You must have a minimum of 24 event credits since upgrading to the level 3, 8 from national or national championships, or what we refer to as N or NC meets. All 24 have to be chief or assistant chief. 12 have to be, at least 12 have to be chief, and 8 have to be obtained after the clinic. And that really hasn't changed since the old days. At least 2 years of service in the discipline since becoming a level 3, the national clinic, and completing the NOC assignment associated with that clinic. And then this is new, but the World Para Athletics, WPA open book exam, you must get 80% on that. This is to get to level 4 from level 3. And then going from level 4 to level 5, again, either you have to decide if you're carrying on with your same discipline as 4 or a different one, but hopefully it has to be the same one actually, whether it's starter's assistant or call room. Now you're at 36 events credits since becoming level 4, 4 from NC or national championship meets, and 8 additional credits from national or N level meets or above. And again, you have to be a chief or assistant chief. And 18 credits as chief. 3 years, at least, since obtaining your level 4, and have attended an activity such as a webinar, rules update, or clinic. I know NOC does a lot of webinars and rule updates. I suspect some of these may count, but Jane or Jennifer could clarify whether these count as that. So in the transition or end of the day, when you're looking for an upgrade, you can be working on multiple event disciplines at the same time. So you could be doing both, your starter's assistant, the track starter's assistant, or your call room judge simultaneously, or you could be doing other ones like the starter in parallel to these two. That's allowed. But you need to make the decision on which pathway you want to follow. And as Jane explained, if you've got one evaluation in the bag or already done, you have some options in the transition period, so you can continue the pathway, or no, sorry, the other option is just continuing as normal. So if you've got one evaluation, you've got some options. Otherwise, continue as I just described. So Jennifer, do you want to take questions before we move on to yours, Claire, or you want to do yours?
Yeah, you can take questions. Go ahead, take questions. It'll
So,
save.
yeah, this is the end of that part. Before we move on to the roles and responsibilities of the call room chief, referee, and judge, let's see if there's any questions on this topic of the transition into the two disciplines.
So Brian, this is Larry. I've got a couple of comments. First of all, to avoid confusion, the call room does not have an assistant chief or chief roles defined. It's only a call room judge, and there's a manager, which is not an official's position. So may want to rework some of this. And also on, but I think it was about the third chart that had 3, 4, and 5 old new system. You're really talking about 3 and 4 because 5 is going to go to being a level 5 call room and level 5 track starters assistant. So I think that 5 is redundant.
Okay. But it's clear, you understand?
I had the same question as Larry. Good point, by the way, about the chief. Probably NOC knows my feelings on this, so I won't belabor it, but I think you've made it very difficult for a level 2 person coming in to actually chief or run a call room on their own. I think they have to be fairly proficient in track officiating before they can even sort of confront people or whatever has to be done in a call room. So I think that part is going to be difficult. I think you've made it a bit difficult all around, but I won't belabor that.
Yeah, Jennifer, do you want to maybe touch on the call room isn't necessarily the what we originally thought of as a huge room. There could be call rooms, there's 3 different types of call rooms you could have. Jennifer, do you
Yes.
want to?
Okay, I'll give you a little history. Involved in this planning, Jackie Downing and myself put together the SA track, and we did the call room judge, and we've done the call room chief judge clinic plus a para call room clinic. In the process, we sat down, Jackie, over the phone talking, spent many hours developing progression stages. So provinces that have few officials, but someone's interested, can start off, and you can still earn credits through all 3 of these steps with a mobile cart. Second one we said was doing a call room with just track athletes. And the third one was running a full-scale call room. So there are progressions to help with learning the required skills that are needed in a call room. So we tried to build that in, and hopefully as we put 1 year under our belt coming up, we can get some feedback to see how the clinic and suggestions and how things are going. And then it might mean that NOC will revisit how we've set up these progressions and see if we can make some adaptations to make it more enjoyable. Hopefully, I think it should be, but hopefully it's more enjoyable with some tweaks along the way. So it'll be a bit of, the first year will be a bit of a learning curve for everybody. Okay.
But Jennifer, if I understand correctly, you want to raise the visibility of call rooms in Athletics Canada wants to raise the requirement
Yes.
for call rooms.
Yes.
So Jen, I completely agree with different levels and how you step up. but the role in the World Athletics book doesn't include anything like that. So maybe we have to add it to our Canadian rules adaptation so that we are clear on that for everybody.
Yeah, I think there's a few more countries that are starting now with all these rules because of the shoes, that being very specific about training in the call room. Okay.
Other questions? You can either do your hand up, which hopefully I'll be able to see, or just talk. Any other questions? Okay, I'm not hearing any. You can always send us an email offline if you think of something after, which I typically do. So let's go on to the next one. This was as I mentioned, this was from last session, a question we couldn't get to on the roles and responsibilities, the differences between the call room referee, chief, and judge. And Jennifer has got some material for you here.
Okay. All right, the roles of, okay, the call room referee. This, whoever is appointed as call room referee, that can be either one official or two. It could be an international technical official, and they will be wearing the purple armband. If it is in Canada, we can use a level 5 official, or one of our ITOs that we have in Canada to be the call room referee. This position is the decision maker, okay? They come in just before the meet starts, right? Stay with us until the very last event goes out of the call room. And they are the only officials that can issue a solid yellow or the solid red cards. Okay, a call room judge, a chief call room judge does not have that authority. It has to be whoever has the either purple, if it's an international meet, or a level 5 or an ITO from Canada who has the red armband on their arm. Okay. Next, please.
Okay.
Chief call room judge. Okay. Basically, we can sum this position up as this individual, this official, runs the whole show in the call room. It is key that they know all the procedures and responsibility of setting up and running a call room from before the meet starts. And that could be 18, could be 12, it could be 9 months before the meet starts. And you're planning all the way through that, getting things organized. You're running the call room, and the end of your job is when the last event goes out to the stadium. Also, you oversee the complete operation of it. You have to be very knowledgeable and confident. And a key thing in establishing a call room is make sure it is a safe, secure, and it's running smoothly. I have to thank 2 outstanding Ontario officials. Both have passed away. Dave Watson and my crazy friend. He was just an amazing individual who has passed away, but who was awesome. One of the key things in setting up the call room is making sure your call room flowchart schedule is perfect, okay? And sometimes curves come from above, could come from the meeting manager, could come from the competition director, the technical delegate, could come in, and we have to change because of some equipment issue, or there's a weather issue, or whatever it is. things will have to change. You have to know how to handle the changes. Next slide, please. And I just threw in, basically that's a flow chart, the headings that we call in a flow chart. You know, you put the date, the session number down, number of flights or heats, when the call room is opened, when the call room is closed, leaving the call room, arriving at the event, and warm up time and event start time. Now, an athlete is coming to look at the board, whether it's a thrower or a track person or a field person. They're going to look at a couple of times. First is the very last one, the event start time, how much time they're going to get at their warm-up site. And then the next time, they're going, the special time they're going to look at when the call room door closes. Okay, so just so you understand those key points. Next slide, please. Okay, now when you do this meet schedule, it is key that usually a chief call room judge will arrive earlier than the other athletes and officials. You're usually coming in maybe 4 days earlier. You would like to visit the site, do a walkthrough, okay, because part of that is knowing the facility. If it's not in your neighborhood and you are going across the country, you've got to go out earlier and see the site. You have to do the time walk routes. In other words, you have to find out where you're going to have your call room, then do the routes and time it out to the 100 meters. You have to time the walking route out to any vertical jumps. You got to walk all the way through to all the various start lines and various field events. In that, you have to make sure you know where all the medical centers are, where all the storage rooms, the TIC. I have a preference. I would like the Technical Information Center to be very close to the call room. And you also have to know where the meet office area is. Okay, next one. You have to be very knowledgeable about all the inspection processes, okay? We call it NABs, but basically that's checking in with your name, event, where you're gonna sit down. You have to know what to do with the international meets that when they have the ID tags, because everyone considers those as Visa Gold cards and don't like to give them up, but they have to, because we take them, then take them to the post-control event. Bib numbers, your bib names, we have to know about the sport bags, hip numbers, the safety pins. Detection is finding illegal things and what we're going to do with those. Also covering illegal advertising, as Ian Reed said last meet that he was at, someone wearing a running room advertising, and the meet was, that's not a major sponsor. Well, you cannot wear, for example, in Toronto, we had to cover up, and several athletes came in wearing Olympic advertising that had to be covered. Well, he said, why? Because it's from my country. I said, no, the Pan Am Games have a different logo and advertising, so it had to be covered up. And we also have the responsibility of delivering the athletes to the event sites. Next one. These are some general things in going through the list. I only did a few of the things that a call room person is in charge of, but you are in charge of getting all the measuring equipment. You probably will be establishing the paperwork trail and how it's going out and who brings things back to you. You also have to have a form of communication trail. Are we using cell phones? Are we using walkie-talkies? Or we have earpieces attached to our walkie-talkies so no one else can hear? Also, a chief call room judge has to make sure that is cleared with the competition director, the technical delegate, what are legal items that are allowed in and what illegal items will not be allowed in. You're very involved in early planning of where hopefully you can have your call room tent set up. Toronto was wonderful because it was the indoor stadium. We stayed nice and dry through a rainstorm. You also are responsible for designing how the layout, where are the pods going to be, where are the work areas, how are you going to use the facility to work, that structure of that facility work best for your creation of your call rooms. You are also responsible for the number of staff. How many staff will you need? And that includes officials and volunteers, okay? And you have to plan training sessions for them. I know it seems funny about washrooms, that it's listed there. That is very important to the athletes. Also, where are they placed? What are they? Are they actual washroom facilities inside a structure, or are they portable toilets? You must make sure that you get the proper signage for the meet. You have to decide what the call room attire is going to be. And we also now have the athlete shoe availability scheme that we have to be responsible for as well. And those are just some of the things that are a chief call room judge. There is a new clinic. It is being formatted, put into a new template, which I have done and sent off to NOC, and hopefully in the near few months that we will be able to do some clinics. So you can see all the new material that was done by various officials in all event disciplines. Okay. I am done, Brian.
Thank you,
I hand it
Jennifer.
over to you.
Yeah, we can open up for questions on Jennifer's information materials on roles and responsibilities of call room staff, referee, chief, and judge. Any questions for Jennifer?
Sure, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ian. I was going to.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So this was, I guess, coming back from my original question, just to give context of why it was. There's been times when I've been call room referee and I've had other, I guess, either coaches or even meet directors or even other officials who kind of treat or address me as if I am the head official in the call room. And I think, well, my understanding of it is a lot more of what Jennifer first explained in that initial slide. And I just wanted to clarify that definitively, that the call room referee is ancillary to the bulk of the call room staff, and that it's the call room chief judge who is the one who's in charge of that. I mean, the referee has their own specific responsibilities, but they are not the one in charge of everybody. They aren't the head official in that context.
Correct.
So you don't see the referee directing staff or judges, sorry, not staff, or
What a call,
calls.
when you have the referee, they are always moving around. They should be moving around, observing things. If they see something that is wrong right away, they can go over with it right away. If something happens in a pod, normally they would contact the pod leader. Pod leader might wave me over and talk to me, but I would also at the same time make sure I bring the call room referee over and they can be involved in the conversation. But the final decision of what is going to happen will be the call room referee. I'm just the call room chief judge basically is the operation of it. Decision making, as I said before, belongs to the call room referee.
Rapport would be good, I assume.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Ian, did that answer your question? I sort of cut in there. Did that get what you were?
Yeah,
asking?
I guess I was basically just wanted to make sure that I was on the same page as everyone else in the country for how you view the authority within the call room, like the referee obviously having the decision making with respect to any rulings for the application of the rules, but in terms of running the show, organizing all the staff and make sure everything's flowing, that all goes through the call room chief, and they are not subservient to the referee in any of
No.
those aspects.
Correct.
Good. Well, thank you for
This is
that.
Keith. This is
Um,
Keith. I have a question.
Go ahead, Keith.
Well, one quickie. If you have a list of illegal items, why do you need a list of legal items? I would think by default that if it's not on the illegal list, it would be legal. But my bigger concern, I guess, is that there's never, as far as I know, there's never been established how the shoe situation works to the call room. As I understand it, the shoe is supposed to be listed on the application that the athlete sends in or the coach sends in. And then that's okayed by the TIC or the official, whoever works at that level. And then is the list then prepared and sent to the call room? So you don't have to be checking the list every time through 40 different pairs of shoes that Nike produces. You just look for that particular shoe, and if it's there, it's good. And other than measuring the sole thickness, etc. So I think there needs to be some established system that once your shoe is declared, it should be passed down in a list of what the athlete's wearing. Maybe even show up on the start list. You know, Joe Schmo is wearing a Nike Flight or whatever. So
That's
that makes
one
life
point.
easier.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, I was
Keith,
just
go
going to
ahead.
say it. Otherwise, it's going to take a long time to check to see what shoe is who's wearing what. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay, first I'm going to start with legal and illegal items, why we list it. Some meets will allow certain things because they have a warm-up area. Let's say those stretching ropes and elastics. Normally, if there's no area set up for warm-up, then we don't let them in. Sometimes meets will have, those big umbrellas and tents. If a meet is not providing that, then we do allow umbrellas to go out, but we caution everyone to be very careful when you open them with other athletes around you, because of the points on the end and things going into the eye. Also, some meets don't provide chalk. So if a meet is, then chalk becomes an illegal item because the meet is providing it. If the meet is not providing it, then it's moved over to the legal items. With the shoe, I did send in through NOC possible steps that could be done, but I don't think a system has come out from NOC or Athletics Canada, because I think they are taking the directive on this one of how the shoes would be handled. I think it's important that the shoes be listed on the start sheet, and that's the shoes that are allowed in. And then we measure those shoes and put our, yes, they're legal once we measure them or not. Okay.
The other
Hopefully.
half of that is that often athletes will come with more than one pair of shoes in the bag. So
They're allowed to bring in.
Where do you go from there?
They're allowed to bring in two. My understanding, that's how it's done now. You're allowed to bring in two pairs and you must decide which pair. Because we can't allow bags of 4 coming through. I mean, the time frame when we open the door to when it's closing, we're given 10 minutes to inspect, and we have to get this all done and lined up and set. So somewhere along there, we need to have on that heat sheet what 2 pairs are coming through the door. The only exception would be combined events. because we only do the first event of each day. Then they get their own chief call room judge and two chiefs to work with. And they monitor and do all the inspections. They don't come back through the main call room, only the first event of each day.
Sorry, I just wanted to come.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead, Keith, if you want to finish off. Okay, I guess you're not. So relating to tracking the shoe issue, so I've got the direct experience from the National 10K Road Champs back in October. So what they had for that is the athletes had to fill out this declaration form that they brought to the technical meeting where we're also doing the shoe inspection. So that declared what shoe model they were using. Sarah's had also forwarded me on the most recent list from the World Athletics of the approved shoes, which was about, I don't know, 5 or 6 pages of all these shoes. Very confusing. I don't work in a shoe store. My own personal running, once I find a model of shoe that works for me, I'll stick with that for years. So I can't recognize that, oh, this is the Nike Super Special 2018 model shoe, and this is the 2019 model of the Nike Super Special versus whatever else. So having that declaration says that, yes, I'm going to be using this shoe, and they are presenting me that a shoe that they are going to be running in. I'm not going to spend the time to look at, okay, is this actually this model that fits on the list? I was limited to basically saying, okay, is this shoe within spec? Like, is the sole within the allowable limits of the 40 millimeters? I guess if there's any, like and the meet kept those declaration forms. So I guess if there were any questions about the athlete's shoe after the race, if anyone saw something that looked suspicious, they could always cross-check against what they had completed beforehand. But in terms of the call room or whatever situation where they are making that declaration, having much use of that shoe model and whether it's on the list, it's very limited unless you know your shoes inside and out and recognize the 2018 model from the 2019 model from the 2020 model and so forth. So I don't know what the best way is to correlate those two other than checking the shoe. Does it meet specs, regardless if it's on the list or not?
You have some very, very valid points, Ian, and I totally agree with you on what you were saying. This is going to be quite a process until you're probably the first in Canada to have that experience of dealing with these shoes at a meet like that meet that you had in the fall. So it's going to be a learning curve on the shoe scheme, but hopefully some processes will come down. We'll try them, and hopefully Athletics Canada is open if we have suggestions that they're willing to listen to us and take into consideration from people right on the ground working and doing the inspections, that these are some recommendations we'd like to see put forward, and so it's much a smoother process going through the call room with these shoes and measuring the shoes.
So Jen, we already have an official in our officials organization that certifies, currently implements to go out there. So as tech managers, we normally confiscate, so it may have to be some consideration around this. But anyway, we could set up a table for shoes, and if they're passed, we can give them initials or a marker that we use on the implements, and they can go away and make it a lot simpler at the call room check-in.
I just think the volume of shoes coming through, if you have 100 people, 100 athletes on the track with bringing 2 pairs of shoes, that will be a massive area to control all that.
I fully agree with that, but it has to be done someplace.
Yeah.
Like, the tech is not the place that it should be done, and it's too late to do it at the call room. So I know it's just showing up as an idea.
Well, no, I like the idea, and I think maybe that between you and Ian Reid and myself and possibly Jane Edstrom as the ITO of Canada, sit down and do some brainstorming and see if we can come up with a workable system that might work. Because this is all new for us.
I agree.
So if you are willing to do that, I think that could help us start getting a handle on how all this is going to work out, doing all this shoe measuring.
I agree it's complicated and it's not easy. It's a matter of staffing and space. So, and
Yeah.
I don't see the skills in the TIC to be the right skills to be doing this.
Yeah. It's a nice meeting place, but maybe we take a wing off to the side. But if you're willing, let's see if we can come up with some ideas and some suggestions. Let's brainstorm and put it together and put it on paper. Okay, so I'll send everybody between you and Ian and myself, and and Jane being the NOC rep, we can put something together. Okay, that seemed doable. And if anybody else has some other suggestions, send it in to us.
I think that
There's
would
a
be
suggestion from Heather in the chat box about taking a photo of the shoe. I would assume, maybe Heather, you could elaborate, but that would be for retroactive. You had a photo, and then if the person kind of won or something, you could check the photo, the photo that way.
Well, I'm just thinking if we're sitting in the pods, we've got the athletes all in the pods, and we've gone through our checklist and we've got legal, we could just say everybody's shoes, down, no images of the people, but we could just do a quick photo of the pod, shoes done, and then that would be historical in case there is anything that needs to come back from jury or track referee or whatever. It'd be quick and dirty.
Okay, well, Heather, if you're willing to join us, let's work as a group here and see if we can do something, okay?
Sounds good.
All
I'm
right, thanks,
secretly
Heather.
hoping 90% of the shoes are all old style that we know, and there's only one or two, but hey, let's get out there and find out. Any more questions? Put it in chat or just raise your hand or start talking.
So Jennifer, it's Dave Keenan. I just wondering, how can we encourage the implementation or use of call rooms in some of these smaller meets? Because typically I find people at track meets just staff it with a couple volunteers that have no idea. They don't check spikes. They don't check anything. How do we encourage the use of call rooms so that when we progress to higher levels, we're not blindsided?
Well, hopefully in the clinic that Jackie Downing and I put together, there's some good ideas and suggestions in there of how to start building a process. But it's out there now. We've got to do this, and it's a requirement now that we have to have call rooms. So talk with your BOC, talk to your provincial chair of your athletics association, and start making it mandatory. You can start off basic, and start adding a component in each time. Start at the grassroots and build and add your steps in. Like start with measuring a couple of things, then start with the inspection of the uniforms, proper lining up and taking them from the call room area or whatever, and take them to march them out to the track site or to the event, field event site.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer.
Okay.
So Keith, I think, has the ideal solution to the shoe problems. Just leave it to the track referee at the finish line. Thanks, Keith. Any other comments, questions, concerns, either in the chat? I can't see any right now. Any other questions, comments? Like I say, you can always send us an email or question if you think after. Otherwise, this is the end of the session. And we're going to take a break, as I said, at the start of the session. Take a break until the new year. In the meantime, we wish you all the best for the season. Enjoy, relax, be safe, family, and we'll get back to you in January on the next session. But if in the meantime, send your ideas, your questions off to any one of us here, and we'll what do you call it? Itemize it, whatever it's called. We'll note it for future sessions. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
great holiday season,
Thank you.
everybody.